You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Hey, welcome to the show, everybody. It's Christopher, a.k.a. the Bronze Age Nerd, and I am joined by
Bigby McFly, the comic guy.
And together, we are your hosts for Best Coast Comics, the show that talks about comic books from the West Coast here late at night. Thank you for joining us. No matter where you're watching from, we appreciate having you here. We have an exciting show tonight. We're actually going to get to learn a little bit about this man of mystery right here, Bigby McFly, the comic book guy. Decided to kind of do a little different structure for a couple shows. We're going to get to know the hosts a little bit. For those of you that aren't familiar with Bigby, we're going to get a little bit more familiar with him, perhaps too familiar with him. I don't know. We'll find out. And then at some point, we'll probably reverse it if Bigby wants to interview me or something like that. But I thought it'd be kind of a fun little experiment to kind of get to know Bigby a little bit more, since some people are probably brand new to him. So hey, let's do that. Let's get to know him and talk about that. But first, I want to recap something huge that happened in the comic book community before we talk about our usual first topic that we talk about, and it's kind of related, folks. C3 just happened, which, if you don't know what C3 is, it's Comics Curing Cancer. It's a great cause, spearheaded by the Hydra that is Rob's Fat Stack of Comics, DJ Links, and Legion of Comics. They do an awesome job. Of course, they have a lot of support from the community. That just wrapped up this weekend for their main fundraiser. I know I picked up a few items that were really cool. I got a Joe Rubenstein piece and a couple cool comic books, like a San Diego Comic-Con J. Scott Campbell, Mary Jane cover, some fun stuff. They raised, and this is amazing, they raised $54,538. Technically, I think their goal originally was 50. I'm a little confused on that, but I think they maybe have like a stretch goal of 55. They're super close to it. People can still donate, so I'm sure that they'll reach that, but that is super awesome. I'm excited to see that they got there. That was really cool. Obviously, we talk about Comics Will Break Your Heart, Jen, and her fight with cancer. So that's something that's very close to us. This goes right to the heart of the problem. So gotta appreciate the work that those guys did, and fantastic job to everybody in the community that helped contribute to this. Thank you so much for your help. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Truly amazing. Okay, so first thing we need to do for our show is we need to say hi to people in the chat. GT Key Comic is here. He's here. I don't know if he was first on every channel, though, because Promiscuous Time Travel. Ooh, he came in very, very, very soon before that. Final message by GT Key Comic. Kyle, if you're out there, thanks for joining the show and leaving that comment. We appreciate it. Son of Crom, awesome new channel I'm following. Son of Crom says, "Let's go." Love it. Love it. Christina Payne is in the house. What's up, Christina? Welcome to the show. And we got Psycho Phil here too. Hey, Psycho Phil, how's it going? Richard is in the house. Chris wants to see Bigby get quizzed. So we're gonna, I don't know, maybe I'll throw some comic trivia your way. Probably the other way around would be more interesting, because I feel like Bigby knows more about like the history of comics than I do for the most part. Dr. Plagueis in the house. What's up? We got What's on the Comic Rack in here a couple times saying hi to everybody. Actual Dracula, Brandon Metro, and we got Collecto 6 in the house holding it down. Appreciate it, everybody, for being here. We will try to say hello and highlight your messages as we go on. But the first thing we're going to talk about, that we talk about every week leading up to Heroes for Heroes, which is our fundraiser for Mission 22, is the Heroes for Heroes updates. And I'm going to show off this week some of the items that have come in from the community, and I'll also share some news with you. But before we do that, I tweaked and fixed a video from a celebrity that we had earlier. I made the background so you don't just see us the entire time she's talking. So we're going to play that video real fast, and then in a second we will see you back here to talk about those items.
Hey friends, this is Stephanie Chakowski from Doom Patrol and Star Trek Picard, and you are watching Bronze Age Nerd on YouTube. Please help support Mission 22 and our veterans by donating to Heroes for Heroes.
So awesome. Once again, shout out to Bigby for getting that ball rolling with Stephanie so that she could shoot that little promo for us. She's also sending in some signed photos that we'll do as probably like giveaways that'll happen throughout the charity auction. Very cool to have somebody who's actually in a comic book related TV show in Doom Patrol. And obviously a lot of us nerds are watching Picard. So that's really cool.
She was such a nice person to talk to. I mean,
yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Hey, Son of Crom calling everybody out. 11 people watching here. There should be 11 thumbs up. Let's click. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you. He's a little sus. Yeah, he is a little sus. We're definitely going to have to get to know him a little bit. That reminds me, actually, before I get into that, I should mention that speaking of getting to know channels and all that kind of stuff, Bigby and I are the co-hosts of Best Coast Comics. Definitely go subscribe over to Bigby's channel if you're watching over on mine, or if you're watching on the other channel that we're on right now, which is the EXP. If you're not subscribed to the EXP, go subscribe to the EXP. We'd appreciate that. All three channels, I think, are very important. A lot of great content on the EXP. You'll actually see some advertising from them soon. So go check them out. And make sure you sub up to this guy over here, because we're definitely going to need to talk to him.
I was on 1,600. I think I'm like 23 away or something like that.
Hey, there we go. Comic Trip says, did you guys see that Tacoma shop, which is Destiny City Comics, will give away a free comic if local Bryan Danielson retains his AEW title this weekend at the Tacoma Dome? That's really cool. I did not see that. Thanks for sharing that, Chris. Chris did his show earlier tonight, Pros and Cons, on his channel, Pros and Cons, called The Weekly Spinner Rack. I highly recommend checking out that channel. He's always extremely gracious to call out our show and mention us whenever I pop in his chat, which is very nice of him to do. But he runs a great show over there, talks a lot about industry news as well from a very, very even balanced perspective. I really appreciate that. So thanks for sharing that news, Chris. I am going to go ahead and show off some comic books that came in. This first one, first two are from the Slab Guy 77 on Instagram. So go give him a follow. These are all for Heroes for Heroes. I'm going to take it out of the bag. Sorry for the crinkling noise.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
This is one of the old school CBCS slabs. Very cool Joker book there. If you're into the fan of the Joker, Detective Comics was at 5. No, I'm sorry, Detective Comics 15 in the CBCS 9.0. I'll do my best to get the glare off there. That's pretty good. So that's very, very generous.
Storyline where the guy was like taking off people's faces.
Yeah, it's where he needed the Joker's face back. The Joker needed his face back after peeling it off, I think is kind of how it went. Sal the Slab Guy from Codex. Correct, Richard. Thank you for that call out. Definitely go give him a follow. And he also sent in this is Deathstroke 7. It's a Joker 75th anniversary variant cover. This is an old school CGC 9.8 label.
Nice.
So that'll be up on the Heroes for Heroes auction, which, by the way, I can officially announce the date for that is going to be November 16th. So November 16th, although there will be most likely at least one other, possibly two other, possibly 100 others. I don't know. Satellite events around that take place leading up to that event, but right. That's what we have so far. This is really cool. I got some stuff in from E-Man. E-Man is a fantastic member of the comic book community. Really love the stuff he sent in. He sent in 2 copies of this Batman Superman World's Finest. These are foils. They have that white protective cover on them. So I'll have to kind of peel this off to show you. But very cool. I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera.
Yeah, Jim Lee. It looks great. Tip it back a little.
The light's gonna.
Yeah, it keeps like wanting to like blot out his face. But yeah, based off that drawing.
So I know it's not the easiest thing to show off. Foils are notoriously hard to film with light. Yeah, E-Man is a really, really good dude. Absolutely. So go follow him on Instagram.
Yeah.
And actually, so I just opened up these. These are kind of fresh mail calls. I'm going to double check and see if this is. I think it might be a different cover, but I want to double check. Yeah,
that Batman one.
Batman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are cool.
So
very cool.
I'll take some better photos of this that'll show up without the bright lights on them, but very neat.
Super cool.
Yeah. Very generous donations. And then he also sent in this. This is dual signed by the Miranda brothers. Inaki and Roy Miranda. This is We Live number 5. CGC Signature Series 9.6. Very cool.
Yeah, it is really
dual
cool.
Signed. Love, good series. And that ties right in to what Dan Kelly sent over, which is a We Live Age of Paladins number 1. So Dan Kelly Art is the IG. Dan Kelly Art. So a couple We Live items. There you go. And then he sent some raw comic, including one I cannot wait to show you. Always nice to get original art. So I'll save that one for last. He sent in this banger, the first appearance of Forge.
Nice. Little
Very
JR,
cool.
JR action there.
Yeah. And then X-Men 183, that's the first Firestar, I believe.
First Firestar in continuity. Yep.
Yes, correct, in continuity. Thank you.
And the Strucker twins. First Strucker twins.
And then all 12 issues. I won't show off all 12, but I'll show them the first cover. This is the entire Camelot 3000 1 through 12 series.
Nice.
So I guess I'll quickly show off a couple of the covers there, but it's just 12 issues of that. So you get the whole run there. Always cool to get a whole run because odd issues out don't work very well sometimes. So those are really great donations. And then check this out. Perfect for the theme of our show. His Captain America sketch here.
Oh,
They
wow.
did it on a Captain America blank. And I'll try to get that as close as I can to the camera.
Good work. Very nice. Love the heavy black in there and the ink work. Nice.
Yeah. Very cool. Looks like we got Richard is highlighting some of these people's links in the chat. So definitely go follow some of those.
Right.
Thank you for doing that, by the way, Richard. I appreciate that.
I like what's on the comic racks quote there. Crom is pleased with you.
Nice. That's awesome. Oh my gosh, we got Dan's X-Men Comics in here. He is collecting the Infinity Gauntlet of Mark Jeweller's variants right now. I was checking that out earlier on his
That
IG.
100 that he got at Portland was nice.
Yes. Yeah, and he just got a first appearance of Jubilee Mark Jeweller's variant, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, Dan. Yes, the super. I apologize for the lights reflecting off the foil covers. They're just so hard to show. So
But
I'll
you
try.
got it, like we were able to see it as you tipped it. So it was
Okay.
good. Yeah.
The problem is with that cover protector. It's like I can't
You're
tell
like,
what's
what
going
am
on
I
here.
showing? I can't see. Like, yeah, I get it.
Hopefully you guys can see it. So I really appreciate all the help from all those people. Oh, we should probably unhighlight that. Send in those awesome donations. If you're interested in sending in donations and you want to have them featured on the show, plus, of course, we'll promote you as we post these things on the Instagram. Also, go follow at Heroes for Heroes Comics on Instagram. I just put up a video today talking about what we could use for help. All those things like liking, commenting, subscribing to Bigby, to myself, any of the channels we're associated with. Comics Limited is another good one to subscribe to. He's helping out with shipping and some other items as well. There's a lot of people that are helping out. Some of them are great and in chat right now, by the way, like Richard and Dr. Plagueis. Hey, what's up, Kamikaze? And I'm sure a lot of other people are going to end up supporting in different ways as well. But if you're interested in supporting, hit me up, hit Bigby up. We'll talk about shipping. We basically need everything by Halloween would be a really good date to shoot for. Earlier is better because then we can promote it and use that to kind of draw attention into the auction and all that kind of stuff too. So that's definitely better. Hey, what's up, Shadow Rat?
Hey.
And Lyle, we got Lyle here. What's up?
Hello.
So that's kind of the big what I have in hand. I will say behind the scenes, I've secured some artists that are going to be working with Heroes for Heroes. I don't have their art in hand. If I just want to always put this caveat out there, if something happens where they get busy, they may not be able to complete their art and get it in time, cut them some slack because these are very busy professional artists we're talking about. But huge announcement. Talked to him at Washington State SummerCon this summer and had a commitment from him kind of loosely right before a panel interview I did with him. And then just got it finalized. Mark Bagley is going to be doing a sketch for us and sending it in. So we're going to have a Mark Bagley piece here on the show. He's joining. We have David Mack. We have some original art from him. A couple of original art pieces he did at Rose City Comic Con. Dan Parent. We've got an original page of Dan Parent art. Oh, you've got.
I have that right here.
I forgot you have that because I remember Travis was the one that had it, but I forgot you got it from him, right?
I can grab that little stack if you want me to show it.
Yeah, why don't you go grab that real fast while I'm talking, and then we can show off some of that stuff real fast.
I'm gonna go ahead and stop my camera for a second.
For sure, of course. Hey, faking me out here. So yeah, we got Dan Parent, David Mack. We have Brian Ching is going to do a Revan. He's a Star Wars artist. He did a lot of art on Star Wars: The Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic. So he's a fantastic artist. He's doing the Zero Ghost comic book, which I did an interview with him recently. He's doing a Revan piece for us. So that's pretty exciting for a lot of Star Wars fans. I think that's really cool. There's a couple other artists that are very much in the early phase. But I will say they look promising. People that said they were willing to do it. It's just a matter of does the schedule work out. Simon Bisley and Randy Emberlin are also kind of in that pretty much wrapped up phase. We just have to make sure that they're willing to get it done in time. So hopefully we have some great announcements for you on those artists. There's also Chip Zdarsky. Chip Zdarsky is doing a piece for us as well. So that's really cool. I almost forgot. Yeah.
Okay, let me start with the art, or let me show some books.
Why don't you start with the art, and then we'll go to the books.
Okay. So we have a sweet original page from Archie by Dan Parent.
Can you kind of zoom that in a little bit? Like, yeah, very cool.
Yeah, signed by her at the bottom.
Yeah, very neat.
Yeah. So cool Dan Parent page. Richard wants this one. Richard wants a bunch of these things. This is the David Mack piece. One of
gorgeous.
His cats, his gesture drawing cat stuff, which is really cool.
By the way, it's David Mack's birthday, so happy birthday, David.
Signed by David there at the bottom. Very cool. And then another David Mack gesture cat.
Very cool.
And then this whole this thing is stuffed with different prints signed by Mack. So got them signed down there under Kabuki's arm. Nice. Yeah, so very cool. So those are the oversized pieces I have here, the art. And then this book is super cool. This is a convention exclusive, I believe, that David did. Which is signed by him. Numbered to 81. So very cool. Love that artwork. We have a bunch of books that I got when I was, I'll take out the questionable one. Some books that I got when I was over at Terrificon. So a couple here. Signed by the creators. We got a Mike Mayhew signed first appearance of All Hallows Eve, donated by Travis from Comics Limited. And a J. Scott Campbell autograph. Black and white artwork there. And these are from Travis Comics Limited. A whole slew of signed books here. So like David Mack, Ninja Funk. We've got Fear Itself, signed by, we've got COA, signed by, what is this, 450 by Matt Fraction. Tony Daniels, Batman Who Laughs. We've got a Deceased #1, signed by, I'm going to pronounce that wrong, SAJAD SHAH. How do you pronounce it, Bronze?
Spell it again one more time.
SAJAD SHAH.
Shadid Shah?
Sajid Shah? Okay.
I'm guessing.
Beautiful Superman piece. Another Superman. I'm not sure the artist on that. Do you know that? Who that is? Gleason?
I can't see the art. Is that David Mack?
No. It doesn't look like Mack's signature. But don't they usually put on those variants, they usually have the name of the artist, but I'm sorry. I was ill prepared for this.
Sorry, man. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just thought you could
show I was like, I have a big stack of stuff. And, we should show it. This one was really sweet. The Dan Parent homage to the first appearance of Usagi. So that's a Turtles book. That's April O'Neil there in the Usagi pose. This one is also pretty sweet. Dark Knight Returns #4, signed by Klaus Johnson and Frank Miller.
Oh, that's awesome.
Lab with the signature series. So very cool. I remember that book coming out. And then this, I might have to bid on this one myself. A Scott Pilgrim hardcover.
Oh, right.
Of all the Scott Pilgrim books, hardcover, limited edition, signed by the author. And limited to 24.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes, it's limited to 1 of 24. So,
that's from the ex-Oni Press guys, right?
That's from the Oni Press guys. And that's what I've got here to show off right now.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm glad you did that. Thank you. So, folks, if you're kind of curious what we're talking about, if you just tuned in, this is the Heroes for Heroes campaign. Officially talking about it now that Comics Curing Cancer is over. We're talking about this a lot more publicly. We're going to hit it pretty hard. Didn't want to take anything away from that awesome fundraiser, but now this is all about Heroes for Heroes. So we are at $525 of an $8,000 goal, which is, I think very attainable with some of the artwork we're going to be getting in. This is the official page I'm about to paste into the chat here. If anybody does want to go donate and bump us over that 525, I'm going to shamelessly say, hey, go ahead and do that instead of like a super chat or whatever else you want to do for us. That would be awesome. And we can get some more donations going for Heroes for Heroes.
We'll say, like, if you donate to that, we'll just say it's a super chat and we'll highlight your comment.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. 100%. And it is the big auction event is going to take place on November 16th. Probably like a noon start time, Pacific time, most likely. That's not set in stone yet, but we'll see how many items we have and kind of plan it out. And plus, some other people are going to be doing some other events too. So very, very excited about getting this rolling. And I cannot wait to, if everybody who committed to doing stuff comes through, it's going to be a very fun year. So I'm excited about that.
It was kind of like one of the first things that you and I kind of collabed on way back in the day. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Bigby was doing live art We had a Comic Journey in here as well. We had him doing a live art stream, and then he was helping out on our big auction show we did on the first night. And then Kyle from the EXP was on the second auction that we did. Bigby was on that. We had Chris from Comic Tropes. He was in here earlier. We had him pop in for a little bit, and he donated a piece. Oh, by the way, that's actually something I need to talk about in the chat. If you could help me out, Chris is going to do at some point, it might be during a live stream, it might be some other way. He is going to be doing a sketch cover. He does great artwork. If you haven't checked out Chris's artwork, definitely check it out. He wanted to do a sketch cover with a G.I. Joe character and a Transformer, kind of like a paired combination. And in kind of a chat we have, we were kind of going through some of those options. So people like Dan Kelly, who donated some of those pieces I was showing earlier, like that Captain America, said Doc and Ratchet, Shipwreck and Sea Spray, Scarlet and Sideswipe, Bazooka and Ironhide, Snake Eyes and Timber versus Soundwave and Ravage, which is a lot of characters, but it's a very cool combination. Bigby had that suggestion. Roadblock and Hound, Lady J and RC, that kind of stuff. If you want to throw out your favorite options, I'm going to run a poll on my Bronze Age Nerd YouTube channel in my community tab, and we'll let that run for a while, and we'll see who wins. Okay, so let us know who's your favorite combination of a G.I. Joe related character and a Transformer character, and he's going to do that on a sketch cover for us. Like I said, possibly during the live stream. I don't know if he'll do that or not, but that'll be really fun if that happens. So,
Right.
Hey, what's up, K-Pop? K-Pop was busy helping out this weekend for C3 as well. She's doing some awesome work. And Cinecrom says phonetically it's pronounced Sajed in Arabic for you language fans. Oh, that's cool. Sajed. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
Okay.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. So a lot of cool stuff. Yes. Darkwing Duck. He did Darkwing Duck. He did a
Right. Yes, put me on the spot because, like, I'm not. Yeah, Disney characters. I was like, okay, yeah, I think I can do it.
Dude, in your Darkwing Duck, like, honestly, like, if it got finished, completely finished, that could have been a cover. I think, like, that was that cool. So, yeah.
Let's get dangerous.
So I don't know what we should do first. Should we do news stories first, or we should do the interview first? What I'll go with you.
Let's get
do
the
news.
news.
Okay.
I'm not that interested.
Hey, Awesome Sauce. Welcome to the show. We appreciate having you here. Collector P's in the house. What's up? Thanks for being here. I think I saw Derek in here earlier too. I didn't highlight him. Hey, Derek. All right. So we're going to talk about some news first. Let me pull up my first story. This is very topical, I think. Let's talk about the Joker 2.
I knew that was what was going to be.
So maybe Chrome can help us out here. I have actually, and this is something I didn't bring this up for the first time. I heard somebody else say this. I have heard nobody try to pronounce the title. Like, I know Adu. I get that part. Ali Adu, I guess. Yeah. Anybody who's a French speaker can correct us, maybe. Topical like ice cream, like the cream. Never mind. I thought you said like ice cream. Or I should point that out too.
With ice cream.
Should also point that out too. There's a lot of hurricane stuff going on in the South right now as they're gearing up for round 2 of the next wave of the hurricane after Helene. Just real fast, if you're in that area, thoughts are with you because we hope you can weather that next storm better than the first one. So Joker 2 box office opening is lower than Morbius and the Marvels. It bombs with a sub $40 million opening weekend, but it does take the number 1 spot at the box office. Now, I don't know if people know, but this is actually a terrible time to release movies historically in the year. Kids are back in school. The kind of movies that get released now historically are horror movies gearing up for the Halloween season. And also kind of Oscar contention season is usually when some movies will get out now because they can kind of sneak in after the summer blockbusters, but before the period ends for the Oscars or other award shows for that matter. So it's not really a good time to release a movie anyway. I think that should be kind of baked into this a little bit. Maybe some of that's changed, but I used to work in the theater industry, and that's how it was in the early 2000s, at least. We do kind of live in a new era, but now let's see here. 2019's Joker, which grossed $39.3 million on its first Friday, went on to earn $96 million and set the record for the biggest opening October of all time. In the same time 5 years ago. So that kind of gives you an idea. So really, honestly, it's about a little less than half as much as the first movie. I don't know. Bigby, how do you feel about the Joker 2 from the press that came out on it and the trailer and everything? And you haven't watched it yet, have you?
I don't think it's really fair to judge it if I haven't seen it, but
well, just as far as like, were you excited to watch it?
I thought the trailers looked okay. You know,
yeah.
I thought they were interesting. So, you know, I don't know. I've got friends who are like, well, nope, not watching it. It's a musical. I'm like, come on. But
yeah, it's funny because I'm on board Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. Mm-hmm. I knew after watching the first Joker, this wasn't going to be. I think the Harley Quinn announcement and then the casting announcement coinciding with it being a musical, it would be. Maybe the expectations were a little bit different for people as soon as they heard those things, is kind of my guess. Because I think, you know, we've had Margot Robbie most recently as Harley Quinn. This is obviously a much different interpretation. It's much less of a traditional comic book interpretation. I would describe it as more of almost like a graphic novel, standalone kind of interpretation, or an Elseworlds interpretation, if you will. So I don't know. I think it's a little strange that people are so harsh on it based on what the first one was, because the first one, in a lot of ways, it was almost a fluke, right? Like it was just not, it was a huge hit. I believe it was $1 billion movie. Am I wrong about that? I believe that's right. Let's see if this article goes on. Yeah, it did cross the 1 billion mark. It was the first R-rated movie to cross the 1 billion mark. Yeah. So yeah, I think, you know, Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn is interesting. I haven't seen the movie yet. I'm excited to watch it at some point. I didn't watch the Joker in theaters. I watched it on home release, and that's probably what I'll do with this one too.
Are you keeping up on the Penguin stuff? I haven't got to watch that yet.
So I was actually watching the latest episode when my daughter started falling ill. For those who don't know, my daughter's been sick, and then she got an ear infection last night. So that kind of went out the window. And so I didn't finish it. I really, really, really loved the first episode. I really, really liked the second episode, and I was excited, you know, about halfway into the third episode. Yeah, so I think it's solid. I'll also throw this in there, not that it's completely related, but the shows are going to get compared a lot. I actually really enjoy Agatha All Along too.
Oh yeah, I'm enjoying that a lot.
Yeah, and speaking of a musical, there's a lot of music in Agatha All Along. I think it's working really well for me.
Every episode had music laced into it. Yeah. So
yeah.
No, I'm actually really enjoying that.
You pirated what and it was so bad you want your money back? Was that Joker 2, Richard? Yeah. I wanted to go back to Son of Crom's comment because he said for English speakers it's pronounced folie à dos. I think it means mental problems, issues shared with two people. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, it's funny because somebody pointed out that no one ever refers to it by its actual title. And I was like, you know what? You're right. They all say Joker 2. The original Joker, Richard? Or Joker 2? Because I mean, hey, there's people that didn't like Joker. I thought it was really good. The first one.
I liked it. I mean, it's a different movie. You know, it's probably not for everybody. And the pacing is, you know, it's its own pacing. But
yeah.
I thought it was really well done.
Awesome Sauce says the Penguin may be one of the best handicap positive shows on TV right now. That's a really cool way to look at it. Awesome Sauce. For those that don't know, Awesome Sauce is visually impaired. And I'm always curious to see what the interpretations are like there for people that are dealing with stuff like that, because I think it is cool to see people. I don't know why it's become such a popular thing to rip on it, but people do. I don't know why. Whenever you see representation, I think it's nice as long as it's not forced and as long as they do it in the right way. It's great.
Right.
So I will move on to our next story, but we do need to take our first commercial break. So we're going to come back here in 2 minutes after we take a look at our sponsors over on the EXP, and we'll be right back with some more news. And then we'll get to that interview with this man of mystery, Bigby McFly. See you in 2 minutes.
Live from New York. What? Oh, sorry. Live from Cleveland? It's Friday night? It's Friday Night Live! With Nancy McCann. And Ricky. And sometimes Carlos. And featuring boxes and boxes of rare comics. Unique collectibles. Lots of smiles and conversations with new friends. Friday Night Live with Comics Unlimited. Friday night from 9 to 11 on The Experience.
Symphonic verses, Nocturne's romance. A song of romanticized darkness, dreaming dead by sleep.
It's not just what happens when you have too many energy drinks anymore. Check out our content over there, too.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Those were some messages from our sponsors over on the EXP and some of the fine programming over there as well. If you're not familiar with EXP, go ahead up over on YouTube or Twitch, like you just saw there, over on Facebook, over on X. There is a link to their YouTube channel down below where you can find all those links. And then also, while you're there, you may as well subscribe to Bigby McFly, the comic book guy. He's over on this side now, which really tripped me up. But go subscribe to his channel too. He recently was monetized here on YouTube, so all those views and subscribers definitely help out quite a bit. So we would appreciate that as we're gearing up for Heroes coverage. Thank you to K-Pop for dropping that link in here. Yeah, we were talking about the Penguin. I'll kind of answer a couple comments we got about the Penguin, and then we'll move on to our next story. Son of Crom says, have not watched Penguin yet. Curious, are there any other known characters in the show, or is it 100% about him? I will say, I don't want to, give spoilers, but I'll say outside of some crime family stuff, like don't expect... I have no idea if Batman will make a cameo or something like that. But I wouldn't expect any other characters. I wouldn't be surprised if they throw in like a couple references, like they've already referenced Arkham and definitely some of the crime family members that you're familiar with if you follow Batman lore. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things where it's focused primarily on the Penguin and his interaction with the crime family. It would be how I'd describe it.
Cool.
Yeah, and Awesome Sauce gave you some extra context to that if you want to read, but I don't want to go into spoilers too much. I know there's a lot of people that aren't subscribed to Max that still want to watch the show.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really, really, really good one. I would definitely recommend like a binge watch when the season's over. I think that would be a good strategy. Son of Crom.
Well, I have a question for you. So yeah. I heard the rumor that of Robert Pattinson being the Batman for the James Gunn universe.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that rumor before too, going back to when James Gunn took over. There were people talking about that. I enjoy that interpretation of the Batman, the Batman.
I thought it was good.
I don't think it holds up as a definitive Batman for me. Like,
right, it's different, but I thought it was good.
Like, I can't see that Batman playing off. And I mean, granted, I haven't seen James Gunn's Superman film yet, but I do. From just the trailer, from the footage, like the stills and the poster shot and all that kind of stuff that they've put out, I'd be surprised if they play into the same tone. If they do, great. But it doesn't have that feel to it. Like if they're doing an all-star Superman story, I have a feeling it's going to come across being a little bit different. And I think it might need a more traditional representation of Batman to kind of hold up to that. Right. But yeah, I don't know. I'm super excited for Penguin. It's doing great. I love the first movie. I do think the first movie, my one criticism of it was that it was more of a vibe than it was like an actual story. It has a lot of like, you know, what do I mean by that? It has a lot of like personality to it, a lot of cool shots, cool music, that kind of stuff. Not so much on the substance of the story until maybe the third act is kind of where it really kind of starts, you know, bombarding you with actual story, which maybe could have been paced a little bit better. It's a very singular Bruce Wayne representation that it sticks out to me compared to a lot of other Bruce Wayne representation. Although I will say, for those that read Absolute Batman, I do see a little bit of Robert Pattinson's Batman in the Absolute Batman. But it's interesting.
I like Andy Serkis. Is that the guy who played Alfred?
Yeah.
I thought he did a great job as Alfred.
I saw a great meme. You know, have you ever seen the meme where they show like a drawing of a horse and they show like the first iteration of something or the first movie, and then they'll show the same drawing of the horse drawn really well. Then it'll be the second movie or something like that. And then they'll show like, you know, like a 3-year-old drew the head of a horse and it's the third movie. I saw a great meme where it was the horse was drawn fantastically all the way across and it was every version of Alfred. And it was like, no matter how you feel about the Batman, every version of Alfred has been amazing. Right. And I kind of agree with that. Like there's been, I'm trying to think if there's ever been a negative Alfred. I mean, the weakest one was the Tim Burton. He was great, but probably the weakest character was the Tim Burton. I can't recall the actor's name off the top of my head. Version of Alfred, just because they didn't give him much character to work with. He was cardboard cutout Alfred in a lot of ways, unfortunately. But he still did an amazing job.
I love Alfred in the Harley Quinn show.
I love everything about the Harley Quinn show.
His character, his crime fighter, is awesome.
Yeah. Son of Crom says, I hear people don't like the Vampire Boy toy, but I was around when fans from Detroit to Frankfurt, Germany were up in arms about Michael Keaton playing Batman. Everyone said he will ruin Batman forever. I love, by the way, it's an unintentional thing, but I love the Batman Forever line at the end, considering that was a movie that came later on. But yeah, I remember that. Of course, I think the most famous contemporary example is probably Heath Ledger as Joker, which everyone was, you know, deriding and up in arms about. He did an amazing job, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, Derek just mentioned that, it looked like. Remember, people also should have brick when Heath Ledger was cast as Joker, and we all know how that turned out. People jumped on Colin Farrell being cast as the Joker too.
The Penguin.
Yeah, especially when they saw the makeup. But it's great. It's fantastic. I think that he does a great job. By the way, Robert Pattinson was in a movie called It's either Good Time or Good Times. I can't remember how it's phrased, but it's by the same person who did Uncut Gems, which is another great movie he did, where it has like a very anxiety-inducing, frenetic pace to it. Fantastic movie. He's been good, and he was good in Tenet, even though that was kind of a strange movie in a lot of ways. He was good in that.
It was a weird movie. I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty well done.
Me too. K-pop comes in with, I hate Pattinson movies, but he surprised me as Bats. I'll watch him. I'd watch him again. Okay, there you go. Ooh, Richard dropping the knowledge. William Austin, Eric Wilton, Michael Goff, Michael Caine. Oh yeah, Michael Caine. Jeremy Irons, Douglas Hodge, and Andy Serkis. Next thing you know, people will say they didn't like Deadpool playing Green Lantern. Yeah, it's weird. It's people. I mean, that's just the perfect casting, right? No, I think Penguin's great. I recommend watching it. I think it's going to stand the test of time as being one of the more popular superhero TV shows. I'd like the idea of flushing out a universe as a TV show Where the Batman movies are very singular things. So seeing that as a TV show is really cool. Our next news story, McFarlane Toys has a second wave of their posed figures. I wish they would stop. They're statues or figurines or maquettes or whatever you want to call them. But the posed figures, they can't make action figures because of Hasbro's license and also Diamond Select and a couple other manufacturers, Mafex. But yeah, they don't have the license to make those toys as action figures, but they can make these. So here you see the first wave. The Deadpool, the Spider-Man, Captain America, Wolverine, Iron Man. Now it looks like we're getting, those are not clickable, sorry, but Miles, Magneto, the Hulk 340 version of Wolverine specifically. Yeah. And is that the Cap 100 version of Cap right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Venom 316 version of Venom. And then I cannot recall the Hulk issue that's from.
It's a great
and X-Men 1, obviously. Yeah, Grey Hulk. So they come in 1/10 and 1/6 scale. They're based on Marvel covers from Jim Lee, Steve Ditko, John Romita Jr., Rob Liefeld, and of course Todd McFarlane. Set to launch October 10th, so coming up here in a couple days, 9 Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. Very cool. So it looks like the Hulk 345 is a 1/6. Hulk 340 is a 1/6. ASM 316 is a 1/10. Captain America 100 is a 1/10. Spider-Man 1, which is the Miles Morales Spider-Man, 1/10. And the X-Men 1 is a 1/10 as well. So very cool. I like the larger ones a lot. I think the size does them better on the detail for sure. So those are cool.
Yeah, those are beautiful.
Oh my gosh. Katie, couldn't agree more. Although the last series of movies they've done haven't been as solid, but the Catwoman movie they did already is amazing. And then the Superman movie that had Lobo in it, whose title I'm going to blank on. But there's a Lobo Superman fight that's very long in it, and it is amazing. Very cool stuff.
Yeah,
so let's move on to
those figures are pretty cool.
Yeah, they're really cool. I just got the DC Jim Lee Wonder Woman statue. I think it's 1/6 scale, but it could be wrong. So I'm going to do a video unboxing of that. I did the McFarlane Batman's up there and the Superman Jim Lee's up there. They're pretty small, but they're large figures. They're just back there.
Right. I guess that's great.
You're just going to add Todd to my bank account at this point. Son of Crom says, to be honest, though, when movies like Green Lantern come out, I still get a little choked up, or I got a little choked up when I was little. Having a second string hero to mainstream people have a movie was unheard of. And yeah, you say you're just happy they tried. I completely agree. It's to this day, it's why I see pretty much every superhero movie that comes out, whether I think it looks amazing or not, whether I love it or not, I still want to support it. I want more superhero movies. I do kind of hope that they continue to raise the quality. Yes, Man of Tomorrow was the movie, Jay. Thank you. But yeah, definitely. Ooh, yeah, Gunslinger is the next Kickstarter. Would be pretty cool. That'd be pretty neat. That and She Spawn would be pretty cool too. But yeah, we talked about that on a past episode of Devil's Advocates. We talked about just kind of supporting those movies, just because it's just X-Men, the original X-Men Fox movie, the original Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire. Some of those movies kind of hold up still, and some of them don't. But at the time, those were precious.
Well, we were starved for content back then.
Yeah, I mean, like the original Punisher and the Roger Corman Fantastic Four and all that stuff. Like when you finally got your chance to watch those were cool at the time.
Yeah,
and
Punisher.
Yeah. So this next one, this is kind of cool. I'm not the biggest Naruto person, as in I know pretty much nothing about it. But I thought this would be cool for some people. I'm sure, because those things are very popular. TMNT and Naruto are doing a ninja crossover. I thought this was kind of interesting because IDW is putting it out, which IDW seems to have kind of gone into some weirdness when it comes to licensing. But this is a joint effort between IDW and Viz Media. It's a 4-issue miniseries written by Caleb Goliner from Sonic the Hedgehog and illustrated by Hendry Presettia from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So that's pretty cool. I think that this is something that if you're a fan of either franchise or both franchises, you're going to love this probably.
It's fun.
Yeah. Only thing I know about Naruto is like the Naruto run. That's kind of all I got for you. But so I'm sorry, I'm a Luddite when it comes to that. Looks like Mewtwo from Pokemon to me. But yeah, I'm sure it's awesome for fans of both. So something to check out.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool actually.
Ooh, Mason Comic Books 2 says, "What's your favorite Marvel movie?" And K-pop pointed out Marvel character movie or movie actually from Marvel, because for a childhood movie it was been Howard the Duck. That's cool. Howard the Duck's a good one. OG Iron Man is another great choice. Since we're going to be interviewing you later, let's tease that, Bigby. What's your favorite Marvel movie?
Oh God. There's so many good ones. I mean, you could go like just the easy stand pat answer of like, the Avengers Endgame stuff, I mean, but I don't know. Like stuff that I will like throw on and watch over and over again, like Into the Spider-Verse, the Deadpool movies. I watched those over and over again. They're entertaining still. Deadpool 2, I just watched that the other day. I was like laughing again. So
yeah, nice. Yeah, for me, I really liked Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah,
and I really liked just because it was so cool to not see the origin story told over and over and over again and just get right to a different. I mean, in a way, it kind of is the beginning of an origin story, but not in the typical Spider-Bite kind of way. And then
I really like the last Spider-Man, No Way Home, or whatever that one.
Yeah, No Way Home.
Yeah,
I just watched Far From Home, so some of those titles get a little confusing.
Right.
Also, Thor: Love and Thunder may have kind of screwed this up a little bit, but Thor: Ragnarok, I watched probably the one I've watched the most.
I would have to say, that is one of the best Marvel movies.
Just as far as the best film, I would say Infinity War, which specifically part 1 was done, I think, the best out of the films. So I'm excited for more of those. Oh man, Winter Soldier was also really good. So there's some really good contenders.
Like, how do you choose?
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, great question. We're going to cover a couple more quick news stories, and then we are going to move into our second ad break. Plus, we're also going to talk about that Bigby McFly guy. This is a cool topical thing. Batman: The Last Halloween is getting a conclusion to a trilogy that I actually have to confess I didn't know this existed. I mean, Long Halloween is probably one of my favorite Batman stories of all time. But I did not realize that there was a kind of spiritual successor or sequel series. What is it called? Dark Victory? Am I right about that? I think Dark Victory. I never read Dark Victory. I didn't know about that. So that's cool to me. Have you read Dark Victory?
I'm sure I read it back in the day. I can't recall details. Back when I owned a shop, I read pretty much everything.
Fair enough. Yeah, this is going to be something that I'm going to seek out pretty quickly after hearing about this. But the final chapter is going to be The Last Halloween. It was announced at MCM London Convention apparently back in May, but I just totally missed this. But I think this is just kind of catching the news cycle again because of because of Halloween, obviously. Now, the rough thing about this is Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale did the first 2 entries, but obviously Tim Sale passed away. So they are going to have some different artists contribute in the style of Tim Sale, or at least kind of homage to his work. And I'm trying to find out where they talk about the list of artists that are going to do that here. I know they mentioned it at some point in this article, I thought. Here we go. Eduardo Risso, who did the Flashpoint Batman Night of Vengeance story, Klaus Johnson, who we just talked about, Dark Knight Returns, and Mark Chiarello, Batman Black and White. We are really highlighting how terrible I am at pronouncing names in the stream. I've always, I don't mind reading them. I just hate mispronouncing them because I know I do. Apologies to any of the creators I mispronounced. But yeah, it's really cool that they're doing it that way. So the series will not feature new work from Tim Sale, but it does have artwork inspired by a rotating team of artists that will tribute to Sale, which is really cool. I think that's really fun.
I think I can really see Jansen stuff in Sale stuff. So
yeah, 100%. And this is let's see. This is the last story we'll cover before break here. Just when you thought you were done talking about Rob Liefeld, he keeps pulling you back in. So apparently in 2025, Rob Liefeld will be returning to Youngblood.
Did he get all the rights back to all the characters?
This is a fantastic question. This is a fresh article I pulled up here. I saw this on X. I keep wanting to call it Twitter. So
I know that they divvied up a lot of his characters for a while. They were split between different license holders.
Good question.
I would assume yes, because he's doing.
Yeah. He's doing it. So unless maybe they carved out some of the characters because of that, but I didn't see any mention of that scanning this article really fast. But I just thought it was kind of fun. I know a lot of people have affinity for the early Image stuff, myself included. 90s nostalgia is pretty much at peak right now.
I have a Youngblood #1 signed by Rob.
That's cool. That's cool. Does he charge an extra $400 to sign Youngblood #1?
I got signed back when it came out, so I don't know. It came in a collection, but I was like, "Oh, that's cool." So I still have it.
I just remember the artwork at the time and really liking it, and liking some of the spin-off stuff. I'll be honest, the story was pretty weak. I will say that what's that?
So he's not a writer; he's an artist.
Well, I was actually going to say, that's one of the things that with age may actually have gotten a little bit better. So hopefully that is the case. I'm going to catch up with chat before we go to break. Jessica Jones blew me away. Her character was awesome. Yes, Jessica Jones was, especially because David Tennant did a really good job as Purple Man in that too. I think that really helped out a lot, but she was awesome too in that.
That's a great series, by the way.
Yeah, and Daredevil. Daredevil is phenomenal.
Series, the Jessica Jones Alias, the original.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was just kind of going to K-pop's comment here. Yep. Netflix Daredevil is tremendous.
Yeah, the OG Netflix stuff is actually really good. Well, most of it.
Awesome Sauce likes Daredevil and Hawkeye. Bernthal Punisher is probably my favorite. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I forgot Punisher. I feel like it had a little kind of a weak middle act, but it was pretty good.
The Punisher stuff in the Daredevil series is excellent.
Awesome Sauce, I think probably meant Crom there. I'm also a huge fan of the classic animated Marvel stuff. Marvel had great animated TV shows back in the day. That's true. Yeah, like the classic Spider-Man and even the Avengers cartoon that came a little bit after are still really well regarded.
Spider-Man is an amazing friend.
Liefeld has more farewell tours than kids. So I thought he just said goodbye to Deadpool. I think, and that's kind of what this article is interesting to me about, is that it's kind of like, okay, we have a peek into what he's doing now, which is going back to some creator-owned stuff, which I think he actually owns a stake of Deadpool, but still fully creator-owned, if you will.
I saw that page. So the first page that Deadpool appears on is going to be going up for auction.
Yeah, we covered that very briefly. It's up for certainly not the first page. The cover is going to go
to the page.
Okay, gotcha. I mixed up what I was talking about there. Yeah, because I know the cover was up for like 7 million or something like that.
Yeah, the interior page is going up as well.
Gotcha. Hey, if you got deep pockets and you love Deadpool. All right, folks, I need to take my second ad break here. We're going to come back and we are going to discuss this man of mystery, Bigby McFly, the comic book guy. See you back here in 2 minutes, folks.
Whoa. Did you miss it? Yeah, they can go by pretty fast. Let's slow down the footage.
Welcome. It's time to skim some comics. Miles Morales Spider-Man, I will just tell you that Miles is very important in his role as a vampire. So
It's fine. If you like Hercules, read it. If you don't like it, don't worry about it. It's fine.
The art is still stunning. There's a panel, little spoiler, there's a panel in this where Chitauri first hits Lion-O, and he is the best "did she really just hit me" face I've ever seen put in a comic book.
Wow, live reviews of new comic books so you can be ready for New Comic Book Day. What is this? Oh, I see. It's Minute to Skim It. Part of the experience.
According to a statistic that I just made up, people spend 4 hours a day changing the television channel. People who watch The Experience don't do that. Save yourself a ton of time by tuning into The Experience and enjoying our new original programming 7 days a week. And then tell your friends. Think about the money they could save on batteries in the remote alone just by tuning into The Experience. Find out more by scanning the QR code below.
In a world where you hit like and subscribe on our YouTube channel.
That'd be really great. Thanks.
I swear I'm going to make that my entry music someday.
How we always gets us going.
It does it gets me going. It gets me going. Folks, welcome back to the show. I am Christopher, aka the Bronze Age Nerd, and I am joined by today's guest, but always our co-host, Bigby McFly, the comic book guy. And we are just about to move into the interview with Bigby here and kind of get to know him a little bit better. Before I do that, I just want to point out that the ads you just watched were from our sponsors over on the EXP. I highly recommend going over and subbing up the EXP for some fantastic comic book content. You got an interview coming up with Scott Snyder. You're definitely going to want to check that out as well. A lot of good stuff you're going to want to be subscribed for. Hit the bell to get those notifications while you're doing that, because the link's in the description below. May as well sub up Bigby McFly if you're not already. We'd love to see you over there on his channel as well. Speaking of Bigby McFly, let's give you some reasons to sub up Bigby McFly by getting to know him a little bit. So, Mr. McFly, if that is in fact your real name.
It's not.
Oh, okay.
Let's get that out of the way.
Just shatter my illusions. Boom. K-pop coming through with the wrench. Posting the link. There you go.
Something away from 1,600. So
there we go. Would love to see it. Love to see it. I'd love to see it 2,000. Let's keep going. Let's keep pushing. So I guess I'm going to start with and I know some of the answers to some of these questions, but I definitely want the audience to get a chance to learn some of this stuff too. And we've talked about this before, actually, on the show. But tell me about some of your earliest memories to deal with comic books. Like, how did you first get into a comic book?
Well, like I think you and I have talked about, my parents used to do a lot of going to flea markets and whatnot, and so they would buy me these, prepackaged bundles of back issues, and so that was kind of my first exposure to comic books. And a lot of stuff through the library. We used to have a bookmobile that would come out to I lived out in the sticks out in Yakult, Washington, way out in the woods, and the bookmobile would come. I remember it was painted like green and like tan. It was this big old bus that they had converted into a mobile library, and they would have comic books, and they would have just all kinds of stuff on there. And then also one of my school bus drivers back in the day, she would have a garbage bag full of EC, I kid you not, EC horror stuff. And she would bring it on the bus, and you could pick out 2 or 3 comics to read while you were on the ride home. And,
wow.
Yeah. So if you can imagine, just you're like digging through this garbage bag full of probably now books that are worth thousands and thousands of dollars,
In the garbage bag, right where they belong. Just kidding.
Right? No, yeah. So we would read a lot of stuff that we probably shouldn't have been reading. It was elementary school. Reading EC horror stuff.
I love it. Awesome. So that's kind of so were you somebody who looked at comic books art first, or did you look at story first, or did it kind of, you know what I'm talking about? Did you have a preference to it, like that tied into it for you?
Yeah, I mean, I probably back in the day, I wasn't so much noticing art styles and that kind of stuff. I was more, hey Kelly, I was more looking at the stories. I remember, I'm a kid from the 70s, trying to wrap my head around 70s DC because it was just so weird. Whereas Marvel was more grounded, DC stuff was just out there.
Right on. So as you were growing up, who was your first favorite title or favorite character? Like, what was the one that kind of gripped you from an early age, that you kind of fell into?
It's funny you said that. I just thought of like my mom and I were just talking recently. She's like, you were obsessed with Speed Racer. I mean, that was a cartoon.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with Speed Racer when I was a kid. And then must have been, Spider-Man was pretty important to me because I remember getting like super excited when he would be on the Electric Company.
Nice.
But
okay.
Yeah. So probably Spidey. Like I said, I liked Batman, but DC stuff was so out there. I had some cool Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes stuff. So that kind of made more sense to me. The whole futuristic time travel, believe it or not, as a kid, I could wrap my head around that stuff. But
it's funny what we gravitate towards.
Those costumes back in the day, those were quite revealing on the Legion guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
The 70s stuff, where they revamped everybody's stuff, so it was just lots of skin.
I do want to point out that Richard said you got into it with an illegal gum trading ring.
There's a story there. Do you want me to tell that story?
Well, I mean, we did hear it on the show recently, but maybe the shorter version of it,
Cliff Notes version. So I used to trade. It was always a scrapper trying to come up with money. I didn't have money, so I would go and buy packs of bubblegum and sell and or trade them for things, trading them for Transformers and G.I. Joe figures and comic books and all of that kind of thing. And eventually I amassed enough money. I would go with my mom to Costco and buy the big box of gum. And then I had people underneath me who would sell the gum for me, and then they would get their cut, and then the school intervened and said that this is how drug dealing starts, and so I wasn't allowed to do that anymore.
Oh my God, Bigby McFly, the gum trading guy. That's awesome. I still love that story. Jay says, "What a G." Yeah. By the way, people are throwing in some questions. I'm definitely going to work those in as we talk. So we'll use this as it makes more sense to ask this now. Son of Chrome wants to know, did you ever buy the Spider-Man comic?
I've seen them. I have not got to read any of those. Well, there's the one that got real hot with the Thanos copter, right?
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah. The more grounded Marvel universe.
Right. The Thanos.
Oh, what a silly time with so many amazing stories. Right. I miss all that stuff. So that was kind of historically. What about today, though? Like, who are your favorite heroes today? Like, as adult Bigby.
So in my high school years, like I talked about a lot with some people recently. I'm talking about like the Avengers and stuff like that. That wasn't cool. Nobody liked the Avengers. They were lame. Nobody liked any of that. I mean, that stuff's cool now, but back in the day, it was X-Men all the way. I'm still a big X-Men fan. X-Men is pretty important to me. But I've grown to have an appreciation for like everything comics. I mean, and the history of it, and learning all of the little nuances and first appearances, and and why this artist is important and this writer is important, and the stories behind the stories, like like the Neil Adams cover, which was like the X-Men one where they edited the monster, and that was like one of the reasons why he left Marvel for a long time on that X-Men cover. So it just like different covers where, oh, there's a story behind that. There's this. And my friends probably get tired of, hey, did you know?
I mean, a lot. I'm only speaking for myself here. That kind of stuff is what I love about other comic book fans, when they know things you don't know and can share that stuff with you. I think that's great. Richard is sad to hear about the Avengers but dude, he's right though. They got probably a bigger glow up than any other group of comic books out there. I mean, you kind of have to throw all of them into that. I mean, I think Thor and Hulk were a little immune from that because they had a pretty successful time in the 70s and 80s. But Cap and Iron Man and especially like, Hank Pym and Wasp and Black Widow were not popular.
During a certain time period, like I'm talking about like the time period from like probably like the mid 80s through like, when comics got real dark with Dark Knight and all that stuff. It was just like, the Avengers they were just too much goody two shoes, and nobody really, at least in my circle. Everybody really,
a little bit like they had to give Superman a mullet. Let's put it that way. Then he was cool again for a little while. Right. Give him a black suit. Like those kind of characters weren't playing very well at that time with the audiences. So yeah, totally. Right. Son of Crop says he stopped buying Avengers when they took down the Vision from the upper left-hand corner. Sad day. Yeah, that's a rough one. Oh, hey, Awesome Sauce is out of here. Have a good night, Awesome Sauce. Thanks for watching the rest on the rewind. Appreciate it. Have a great night. So Richard's still booing.
Boo. Richard, I love the Avengers now. I said I've grown to have more of an appreciation. I did not have the cultured palette that I have now.
Yeah.
To understand what's truly good.
It's just true. Like, I think that for whatever reason, and I'd actually would love to dive into this at some point with somebody who was around during that time. But it does seem like they just weren't receiving the creative love that a lot of other titles and segments were. It just seemed like they were kind of swept under the rug to a certain extent. I don't know if that's a chicken and the egg thing
that came out during that time period. And it's just like a lot of filler kind of storylines that just really have any impact or anything. which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
There's always going to be important key things that happen, you know, in first appearances of characters and stuff. But for a while there, I mean, there was a amazing stretch in there where they had, you know, you had Perez and Byrne and that stuff, and that was great. But it's just like, I don't know where they lost their way.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It'd be fun to dive into that a little bit. You know, if it was just falling out of love with editorial or sales, or probably a combination of all that. People moving on to the new edgier, hotter characters is definitely a part of that. So those are some of your favorite heroes. Is there a hero that you identify with the most, like on a personal level? Like, do you see more of yourself in any, or a villain, I guess, but any comic book character? Let's put it that way. Do you see yourself in any comic book character on a regular basis, or any personality traits that, you know, you kind of notice in a character?
I've always kind of identified with like the misunderstood kind of like Hellboy, or, you know, or Hulk, or, you know, that kind of, like those kind of characters. Yeah. Kind of like, what, who's the real person behind the person, you know? So people judging books by covers, you know, kind of that kind of thing. So I've always kind of identified with that. I always really liked Wolverine as a character, because I like, you know, just, but not really, like, I'm not like Berserker Rage or anything like that, but, you know, it's my adamantium skeleton that really, you know, makes me.
Well, he was a man of mystery too for a long time. I think that was kind of intriguing. Like they peeled back all the layers on that onion, but for a long time, you know, he was pretty mysterious, and kind of, you know, that made him kind of cooler for a lot of people, I think, in some ways.
Right.
How about a favorite? Do you have a favorite villain, or maybe a couple villains that stick out to you that you enjoy the most?
Oh, I have to go, like, Doom is amazing.
Solid.
Yeah. I mean, and he can cross over in almost any storyline and hold his own against whatever team he's facing up against, you know. I've loved him when he was in X-Men, you know, that kind of stuff. So Joker is always entertaining in DC stuff.
Hey, MJ.
A normal human being that just everyone in the DC universe is terrified of, you know. I mean, not normal, but, you know, he doesn't have Superman's powers or anything. But a great character. You know, yeah, there's amazing villains, but CGC, yeah,
it's a good choice, Richard. All right, cool. This is the thing I wanted to talk to you about, and it's because I know a lot of the other stuff, but I definitely wanted people to get a chance to hear about some of your love and history of comics historically with you personally. But I'm really curious to talk about this part of the topic. For those that don't know, you have a history in comics retail.
Yeah.
And it's, feel free to go in as little or as much detail as you want as far as some of those things go. But I am, especially like how you got into it, I'm extremely curious about that, because so many people that are in comic books have always been interested in like owning a shop or running a shop. And you've done it a couple times. So I'd love to hear from your perspective, if you could, for people about maybe not just how you got into comic books, but also a little into comic books retail, but also a little bit about what surprised you, or what advice you might have for retailers, that kind of thing. Because I'm really curious about that, since you've had that experience.
So everyone thinks that's going to be the most enjoyable thing in the world to do. And I will say there's no better way to ruin something that you have a passion for than turning it into your everyday job. Yeah, so there was, for a while there, I didn't enjoy a lot of the things that I really enjoyed the most in life, because there was I saw a lot of the dark, seedy underside of things, you know. But How did I initially get into retailing? So there was this whole bubblegum thing. No. But then kind of to play along with that, like, like I said, I was trading for things like Transformers and GI Joes and comics and that kind of stuff. And eventually I started doing like shows, like trade shows and stuff, comic shows, or little shows at the local mall where it'd be like you could get a table for $25 or, and set up and do your own, things. I was also big into sports cards and that kind of stuff. And Magic the Gathering is huge for me. I still play Magic the Gathering on occasion. In fact, I've done some videos on how to build your collection without spending a lot of money. And Magic the Gathering is one of the ways that I'm able to do that. I play drafts and I accumulate cards and win and sell the cards off and then buy comic books. But so I started doing shows, going to like the Portland Comic Cons and that kind of stuff. And eventually started talking to, this was probably right about the time Valiant started coming out. Started talking to one of the guys who I knew who worked in a sports card shop with his one of his uncles. He started doing a little bit of comics, and he was also the guy who did Magic there. And so he and I talked about opening a store together. And he's like, yeah, that's a great idea. Why don't you go out and scout some locations and see what you can find? And so I went out and looked around, found a place, got all the details on the lease and everything, got the lease agreement that needed to be filled out, brought it back to him and handed it off to him. And he said, oh, okay, good work. I'll get back to you in a couple of weeks. And so, a couple of weeks later, I called and I said, hey, how's that coming along? Where are we at? And he's like, give me another week or two. I'll get back with you. And called him back in 2 weeks. And he says, yeah, I signed the lease. I'm opening my own store in, in a week or two. And you're not invited. And that was kind of disheartening. And I was pretty upset for a while. But eventually I was like, well, this guy has comics and, I can let bygones be bygones and go in there and shop with him. And so he did one side of it was, and I'm not going to name names because, but he did one side of it was comics and Magic, and one of his uncles, the other side did sports cards. Mm-hmm. And so they ran that shop for a couple of years. And then one day I walked in and his uncle was sitting in the middle of the shop. Half the shop was gone. And his uncle was sitting on a bucket playing the guitar in the blues. And I'm like, what happened? And he said, so my name was on the lease. His name wasn't. And he bailed and left me holding the lease. And he's like, if you want to have a shop, I will sell you everything in the store for $1,000. And so I had all the sports inventory. We gave me all of the names of the wholesale suppliers and everything that he was buying all of his stuff from, all of the fixtures and everything. So I went in with a buddy of mine and we spent $1,000 and opened Amazing Stories, which was the name of my store.
Great name, by the way.
I remember spray painting a big rectangular sign made out of plywood with the old Amazing Stories, the Steven Spielberg Amazing Stories logo, and hanging that on the side of the building. And
the next day, Steven Spielberg's lawyer showed up. No,
that guy was
work like that back then.
The guy that had left was not very happy because all of his clientele was coming to his old location still, and there was me. And so, so that, I got in right at the worst time during the crash. So I learned to make money when times were really, really bad and to survive during that time period. And so Magic the Gathering was it was like 1993, 94, late 93, early 94 when I opened my store with my friend. We were partners for quite a while. I don't know how to phrase all this stuff. He insisted on taking home a paycheck from day one. And
he said, well, I said, well, I don't see how this is going to work out. We can't really afford this. And I was still working a full-time job. And so, so I was working 2 full-time jobs, and I had an infant son. There were many days where I would stand behind the counter with my son in his car seat, and rocking him with my foot while I was ringing people out and everything in the store. Yeah. So my payment was deferred, and I could take product or things that I wanted. And at some point, it got to be some ungodly amount that was owed to me, and the partner just was like, you know what, see ya. You've got enough claim to product and merchandise that you basically own the store. So so that became my store. And then kind of amoebaed and made a second store in Astoria, Oregon. So the first one was in Vancouver, Washington. The second one was in Astoria, Oregon. And
for those that don't know, Astoria is a pretty historic town. Like it's where Goonies was filmed, is probably its main claim to fame. But it also has a lot of historic significance too on top of that. But it's a kind of a vacation destination, summer town, especially kind of place.
The money was great in the summer and terrible in the winter.
Yeah, I bet.
And I was in the building that looks like Batman should be hanging on top of the Astor Hotel. It's like it's like the building like where Batman would be hanging out.
By the way, this is I need to speak up during this part of the story, because unbeknownst to me, I visited that comic shop with my girlfriend, who would eventually become my wife. Once I went through there once on my way to a different coastal town, and really enjoyed the store. I didn't live anywhere near it, so I didn't go back. But yeah, that's my weird like paths crossed at some point probably kind of story with you.
Probably talk to you because I would hang out, and my wife would, and by the way, my wife was amazingly responsible for it. Everything about the way that store looked and how beautifully decorated it was.
It was a nice store.
We had a giant mannequin Spider-Man that everything was posable down to the fingers and everything, and we had him hanging upside down on the front window. We bought a theatrical costume that we put on the mannequin. That was hard to dress that mannequin. But yeah, it was awesome. And so things went well enough that eventually we knocked out the wall and went into the next unit next to us. It was interesting because like when I first moved in, the unit was trashed, and we offered to put in flooring in lieu of like rent and fix the place up, repaint it and everything. And we put in like these, it was amazing. Like the colors were like burgundy and gold with the theme colors and everything. And so we had these burgundy gold curtains on everything, had these amazing, scroll artwork or scroll lettering on all the windows. And but I'm not a flooring person. So I came in, I was like, all right, just put it right over the carpet. It was really nice. Actually, it had kind of a nice sponge to the floors.
A lot of padding.
Yeah, a little padding on it. But yeah. So yeah, and then my son, my youngest son, was born, and we decided to sell the stores. So. And there's a lot of stories in between there, like the time when the building was overrun with giant rats, because we found out why. But the dumbwaiter that they would use to do the garbage from the top floors all the way down was a hydraulic thing, and the motor burned out, and so they just took the entire mechanism out, and so people on the top floor would just throw their garbage all the way, and it would go down into the basement and explode. And so I remember the first time I'm in the back room sorting back issues, flipping through and pricing stuff, and I just, out of the corner of my eyes, I see this
shadow go up like a, there's piping and stuff, and it's an old building from like the early 1900s. This shadow goes up this piping, and I'm like, what the heck was that? And I kept seeing these shapes, and
it was Ratman.
It was literally, giant, like the size of cats, rats. I mean, there were wharf rats, right?
Yeah,
it was insane. And I would do I would do art lessons in the store, so I had a little like area, and I would teach. I don't know if any of my students ever went on to do anything great, but I did art lessons and everything. But there was a little area where we had the art studio set up, and one day we're sitting there. My wife goes, "Oh my God." And this rat was chewing its way through the drywall. And we had pieces of glass shelving in the back room for the display cases. And I put one up against the drywall. And he went all the way down the wall, like in a line up against that glass. And it was insane. There's a ton of crazy stories from my retailing days. I think I told you this story, but okay, one more crazy retailing story. So there was a day in the wintertime in Vancouver, and for those of you who play Dungeons and Dragons, like third edition had just come out. So we had a huge bookshelf with all of the Dungeons and Dragons books and everything. We had an area that was grid walled off that was a back office where one of my employees was doing like data entry and stuff. And I was at the front counter, and I was ordering all of the books out of the previous magazines. And this guy walked in, and this is how long ago it was. This guy walked in with a Blockbuster video bag.
Well, you're talking about that area. I mean, that could have been like last week. There's still one around there, kind of.
Well, yeah. He had a pint of, like, I think peach schnapps or something with him, right? And he walks in. He's like, "Hi guys, first time in the store," and it's like kind of blizzarding outside, right? We're like, "Well, welcome in." He just walked in off the street, and he's looking around, and he's kind of looking at all the bookshelves and everything. We can, let us know if there's anything. First rule of retailing: always greet your clientele. Ask them if there's anything that they're looking for, if you can help them find, and then kind of feel it out if they want to engage in chat with you and they want to find something, or if they just want to explore the store on their own. So this guy was kind of the explore the store on his own kind of guy. So you just say, "All right, let me know if you have any questions," and you go back to doing whatever you're doing. Well, we had this building that my store was in was an old feed store, so like it was divided. There was like a lower area, which was the front room. And then there was a back issue room that you went upstairs, like a half flight of stairs. It was kind of it was the raised dock area where they would use back in the day, where the feed would come in, right? So that was back issues, that whole room. So this guy's over looking at this huge bookshelf, and then out of the corner of my eye, I see him just dart up the stairs, And so quickly, I kind of stick my head in the other room. He's looking around at the back issues and stuff. I'm like, okay, nothing weird. And I had a camera back there where I could watch. It wasn't recording, but I could watch what was going on back there. So I'm like kind of glancing, watching. Okay, everything seems normal. And the guy goes to leave, and he walks up to the front door, and he says, "Well, thanks for letting me look around, guys." And he says, "See you later." And as he does, he waves like this, like, "See you later." And his shirt comes up, and he has all 3 of the core D&D books stuffed down the front of his pants. And I'm like, "Hey." And he goes, "I made it out of the store. There's nothing you can do now." Those are the rules.
And everyone knows.
He casually starts strolling down the sidewalk.
He's like, "Ollie, oxen free."
Right? And I'm like, so I yelled at my employee. I said, "Hey," I said, "call 911. I'm telling which direction I'm headed." And so I ran out the store, and I'm following this guy down because it's like $100 plus worth of books, right, at the time. And the guy looks over his shoulder, and so he's kind of hastens his pace, and we go up, and I don't know if you guys don't know the area, but I was on 4th Plain and then Mill Plain towards Clark College, so it's up this hill. this guy starts going up this hill, and it's
blizzard
snowing.
conditions, which by the way are completely unusual for that area, especially at that time.
Right? It's snowing, and we're hastened pace, and me not being the most physically fit fella. We're both huffing and puffing, and the guy looked over shoulder at me, and he goes, he's like maybe like 20 feet ahead of me. He's like, just tell your boss I got away. And I said, I got bad news for you. I am the boss. And so the guy goes up, and there's a little jog in that thing, and it goes up, and there's like actually the alcohol detox rehabilitation center. Funny thing, kind of. And he kind of jogs around this corner, and so I come walking up, and I can see his footprints in the snow. They go over into this little alcove, and there's an alcove. It's kind of got like two little walls, and like there's a little inlet on either side in the door to go in, and you can see his breath coming out from behind this thing, like he's hiding, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I know you're in there. I'm like, just give me my books back, and I will turn around and walk the other way, not tell the police which way you went. Just give me my books back. And he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah. So I walk up to the entrance to the thing, and he comes out, and he has the books in his hand, and he looks at me. You can just see the thought process, and at some point the gears just didn't, and he throws the books down, and he starts swinging. And so here we are, brawling in the snow outside the alcohol rehabilitation center.
Probably no stranger to such a scene.
It's just insane, right? So we're fighting, and I finally get the guy pinned, right? And there's like this work release crew there, and I'm like, hey, I don't know if you guys know what a work release crew is. Like people who are out of jail to do a job, so they're out doing, I forget what they were doing, shoveling snow off the sidewalk, maybe something like that. I said, hey, call the police, somebody, this guy's a thief. He's attacked me, assaulted me, and I'm holding him down. And one of the guys comes over, and he's like, hey man, we're on work release. You can't be doing that here. We're going to get in trouble. And he goes to pull me off the guy. And the guy gets up and knees me right in the chin. And again, we're brawling. We're throwing down again. And about that time, 3 cop cars pull up with guns drawn. And like, freeze. And we're both. And he go, who's the bad guy? And I'm like,
who's the bad guy?
Right? Who's the bad guy? So
not it.
Yeah. Their books were ruined. They smashed in the snow. They got ruined. Turned out the guy had some mental health problems and was drunk and all of that. So all I really got out of it was I got to put a restraining order against him ever coming in my store again. But there you go. There's a funny retailer story. I think I want to do a show like it is just like retailer stories, because there's just a ton of insane retailer stories.
Oh, I bet. The guys need those books bad. It must have been one of the steps. Yeah, the story. I mean, all over some D&D books, man. Like it's just right? It's crazy.
My wife was so mad because she's like, so over $100 worth of books, you were willing to risk your life. At that time, we had just had my first son, and she was so mad. She's like, your life is worth more than $100. That guy could have had a gun, he could have had a knife, could have had who knows what. And I was like, yeah, but it was $100 worth of books, and those were my books.
Yeah, well, I mean, $100 today doesn't seem like as much, but I mean, back then that was even a little bit more.
It was a lot back then.
Yeah. I mean, it should seem like a lot, but unfortunately, it isn't today. But yeah, it's crazy. Well, I'm glad you ended up being okay, because I spent like 15 years in retail management, and one of the first things we would always train people to do is not chase after people stealing because of what could happen. But also the world, unfortunately became a scarier place too. In that time.
I have another one more funny story. So,
okay. We do have to take our last break though. So
funny story after the break.
Well, actually, you think it can be a quick story? Because then I wanted to talk to you about your art after the break.
Okay. Quick story.
Okay.
So I'm at my first location. So that second location was down near Clark College. First location, we moved during the Pokemon boom. But my first location, we're located next to this, we're in a really sketchy area of town, right next to like a stereo store, which there was always like stolen stereos and stuff being sold there and all that. But they had this really buff guy that was like their stereo installation guy, right? So he's always out back installing or removing stereo equipment. And so that's just side setup story. This fella comes in, he's like, hey, I've got a whole bunch of like Mickey Mantle and Hank Aaron cards. Would you like to look at them? And I was like, yeah. And I'm like, but we're closing in like half an hour. You know, how long is it going to take you? He's like, I don't have them here, but I'm going to run home and I'll get them. Can you wait for me? And I was like, sure, I can wait. If it's going to be a reasonable amount of time. He says, oh yeah, I'll be back real soon. So I'm waiting and I'm waiting and waiting. And while I'm waiting, like a bunch of my customers come in and they're kind of milling around the store. And I said, hey, I got a guy coming in. Feel free to shop because he's coming back. So I don't have to close up. So unbeknownst to me, the guy was actually scoping me out to rob me. Because my customers were in the store, he didn't rob me, but he decided it was a good idea to rob the stereo installation guy in the back. And so I hear this ruckus out back, and then I see, if you can imagine, this kind of mulleted, shirtless, muscle-bound guy who's the stereo installation guy running around the corner, and he's screaming. He's like, he's got a knife, he's got a knife. And I'm like, whoa. And I pull the door to my store closed, and the guy comes screaming around the corner. And here comes this guy chasing after him with the knife, right? And what he didn't know is the stereo installation guy was a black belt martial artist. And so the stereo guy's like, yo, you want to throw down, drop the knife. And the guy's like, all right. He throws the knife down, and he just, bam, that guy's nose just exploded. His face was bright red. He hit the pavement. I was like, note to self, do not mess with the stereo installation guy.
Oh my God.
There you
That's go. Wow. Owning a comic book shop is hard work, fella. That's the moral of the story. Also, Son of Cromp pointed out, never mess with the combo of muscles and mullets.
Right.
Good point. Derek was wondering if this was a hero origin or a villain origin story, and I don't know. It's kind of, if you know the whole story of Bigby's life, or at least you know what he's told me in the time I've known him, I definitely think that it's a different kind of story in a lot of ways. But I like to think of it as a very long hero origin story. Is what I like to think of it as.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. So we do need to take our last ad break. What we're going to do when we come back from that is we're actually going to talk about a different aspect of Bigby's comic book history, which relates to his art. So if you want to hear about that, and then after that, we're going to quickly go through some community art from you guys out there, which is awesome. Stick around, and we'll be back in a couple minutes with more of the show, and then we'll close it up for the evening. See you soon.
Some comic live streams seem like they're just throwing everything at the wall. Hey, you want this unknown comic? Here, how about this boring one? Found this one in a rain gutter. Give me some money for it. I know this looks like a rotting sandwich, but I swear it's a comic. Pay me! But with Comic Collectibles, we know you don't just want comics, you want the right comics. You want rare variant and incentive covers, vintage books in pristine condition at prices you won't find anywhere else, and truly unique hand-drawn cover sketches by some of the most amazing artists in the business. Join Rex and his rotating cast of co-hosts live from Dynamite Entertainment headquarters for a carefully curated roster of comics that you'll only find here at Comic Collectibles. Every Monday at 6 and Wednesday at 7 Eastern Time. Part of the experience.
Did you know that Arthur, King of the Britons, in Monty Python and the Holy Grail was played by a famous Graham? Check out another famous Graham by following our Instagram. Download our app on Google Play and the App Store. It's so simple, even my mommy can use it.
Welcome back, everybody. We are back. I am Christopher, aka the Bronze Age Nerd, and I am joined by this hero origin story right here.
Bigby McFly, the comic book guy.
That's him. That's him. He forgets his place sometimes, but that's who he is. So we're talking about
do that again.
No.
McFly, the comic guy.
So we are here talking about Bigby McFly's history with comic books and his history on being a retailer, actually, which was very fascinating. And I'm sure we'll get more of those stories as time goes on. But before we wrap up the end of the show, we are going to do some community artwork at the end. But actually, Bigby himself is an artist, and I really wanted to hear about some of your history with art. We do have to go a little quick because we don't have a whole lot of time left. But how did you get into art? You taught art at your comic shop. You're telling us about that. How did you actually get into it?
Into art?
Yeah, so when did you start really trying to draw or paint seriously when you were growing up?
So junior high school, I started doing. We started playing a game called the Champions role-playing game. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that, but you could your character sheet. There was a little section for art for your character, and so I was never satisfied. They always had like just kind of a blank fill in the character thing, and I always wanted to do more than that. And then one day I went over to my buddy's house, and he was kind of aping the original Kitty Pryde and Wolverine art. I think it's Al Milgrom. He was kind of copying some of that, and I was like, "Ooh, that looks like fun. I want to do that too." And so we were already pretty much best friends, and so we started drawing comics together and doing all kinds of stuff together. And that's kind of where I met Travis from Comics Limited also during that kind of time period. And so our group, we always whatever it was we enjoyed, we always got into like doing it ourselves. Like, we like comics, so let's make our own comics.
Nice. Yeah.
We like baseball. Let's play. Let's have a wiffle ball league, and that kind of thing. So we all that kind of stuff. So we had great fun with that. And actually, I have some books that I put out when I was in high school. That's where I ran off during the during the commercial break.
Nice.
So yeah.
Well, yeah, I was curious about that too, because I don't know I think maybe this is kind of a good place to start with this. I know you've had your work published before.
Yeah. So that's a whole, like, I talk a lot about like things just kind of like coming to you or like falling into your lap. What's meant to be will be, right? And like this stuff, people always ask me like, when I go to a show, what books am I looking for? And I go, I'm not looking for anything in particular. Like, when I'll know it when I see it. I have a list of things that I would like to eventually own. Like I told you, I have a video of like, has like 80 different keys that are like anywhere from, AF-15 down to like, these $20 first appearances and stuff, right? Just like stuff that, and you've seen me go through a back issue bin where I'm like, oh, that's important. That's important. That's not important.
It's quite impressive.
So where was I going with that?
That you you got me caught up into your story there. So things are meant to come to you when they come to you.
Oh yeah. So it's meant to come to you when you come to you. What was something about?
Your publisher
being published. So the Astoria shop, I had a guy that would always bring in. He was our delivery guy for FedEx, and he eventually was like, "Hey, I own a horror magazine, as well as I published this horror magazine called Dark Discoveries." And I was like, "Really? That's kind of cool." And it's like, "I'm like, would you like me to carry it in my store?" And he was like, "That would be really cool." And so he's like, I'll bring some by." And one of the times when he brought it by, I happened to be giving art lessons, and he's like, "Oh, you do art?" And he started looking, "Oh yeah, I have a bunch of my stuff over, framed and for sale on the wall." And he's like, "Well, this is really cool. Would you like to do some pieces in our magazine? I can give you like, a theme for a story. Maybe you can do like a, an intro splash piece or whatever, and then it'll have the text story." So
I did that a few times, and then they had just different things that they needed art for. So I would do little knickknack things here and there. And then they were going to do a issue all about EC comics and horror. And he says, "Would you be interested in doing a comic book in our magazine?" And I was like, "That would be really cool." I've never been published. This magazine was actually distributed in like Europe and Canada and all over the US. And I was like, this is a cool opportunity.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Okay, well, here's the script for this story that we purchased from this writer. Can you plot it out and do the artwork?" And I said, sure. And I said, "Look, we need to talk about like compensation." And he's like, "Well, what's average?" And at the time, I think like pencilers were getting like probably almost what they're getting nowadays, like $75, $80, $100 a page or whatever, right? And I was like, and I listed that up, and he's like, "Well, that sounds reasonable." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And so I plotted this whole thing out, and he goes, "Well, actually," I kind of roughed it out and gave him the synopsis of the story, and he goes, "Yeah, you need to like chop out some chunks of the story because you only have 12 pages to work with." And I was like, "Is the writer okay with that?" And he's like, "We bought the story. We can do whatever we want with it." And so I forget the name of the writer, but my apologies to you for chopping your story up. They told me to do it. So I ended up.
That's comics, everybody.
Chopping this guy's story up, right? And cutting out big chunks of this guy's story to make it fit. And then I penciled it, and I go, "Well, who's the inker going to be?" And they go, "What do you mean?" I go, "The inker?" And they go, "What's an inker?" And I was like, "Oh." And I go, there's a penciler, there's an inker, there's a letterer." And they go, "Oh, we thought like just like you did the art, like you would have the word balloons and everything. It would just be done for that price." And so I ended up doing everything, and then they started having ungodly amounts of revisions. So I think like if you break it down hourly, I think I ended up making like 50 cents an hour on that job.
Oh my God.
It was terrible. Like I finished the entire thing, sent it to them, and they go, "We don't like the way that ended. Can you change that? Can you redo the last 3 pages?" And I was like,
if we add in the rest of the story I cut out, maybe it'd make more sense.
Right. So yeah.
Ouch.
It was this story about like these pilots. They take off to go do a bombing run in World War II. And they're taking off. Oh, and this is the other thing. Like I penciled the whole thing out, and then they go, "No, we want it more like photorealistic." And I was like, "Photorealistic?" And they go, "Yeah. What could you do? Like, can you do like photo manipulation?" And I was like what? And they're like, "Well, the monsters." And I'm like, I guess I could try to do some things. So it's really not even a representation of like my art. It's like digital manipulation of like, so like these gremlin things are actually like tree frogs that I made mutated these pictures. I would take a picture of a tree frog and then mutate it where it's like carrying a machine gun, and it's not great, but
I love the idea that they wanted to do photo manipulation, and the thing that they decided to say is they wanted the monsters to be photo manipulated. Like,
no, they wanted the whole
photos of the monsters.
The whole thing. They wanted it because they were like, "We want it to look like super hyper realistic on the inside of the B-17 bomber." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, I've got to find like reference photos for the interiors of B-17." I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's this thing. I ended up making like 50 cents an hour after doing all of this work. I have
zero doubt that those editors or whatever of that magazine would totally be using AI today based on what you just told me.
Right. So yeah, these guys, they take off. There's gremlins in the plane. The gremlins kill almost everybody. The captain wakes up. The gremlin
they killed all but one gremlin. So there's the last gremlin is standing on the bomb bay doors, and the captain's like reaches up and grabs the lever and pulls the lever to drop the bombs to send the gremlin plummeting out of the plane. And then he's like, and I swear to God, he was laughing. He was laughing as he fell out of the plane. And then it's like, then it shows the captain and he's on trial. And it's like, and when was it that you realized that you bombed London? So like the gremlins had directed the planes from Germany back over to
have you ever seen a movie called Shadow in the Clouds?
No.
It stars Chloe Grace Moretz, and she's in a World War II bomber. She's a spy that ends up on a bomber about to go do a run, but she's being chased by a gremlin that ends up on the plane.
Oh,
and it just kind of made me wonder, like, gremlins on planes are certainly not a new thing, but World War II, B-17, just kind of made me wonder.
Yeah.
Son of Crown wants to know if you know what issue that was, because he found.
It's got so I did the cover too, right? And originally they go, we want an EC cover. We want it to look like an EC cover, right? But we want the photo manipulation thing again, right? So I have my son pose as this guy reading a magazine, a kid reading a magazine in his bed with the flashlight. And I'm coming through the door. I've got a hatchet in my hand and I've got the head, it's that cover, right?
Yeah.
So he's reading the magazine. I'm coming through the door with the hatchet and but it's all, so then I made it look like it was a digital painting though. I turned it in.
That should be easy to find.
And they go, and I told them what I was going to do before I did it. And they go, oh, that's great. That's great. That's great. I sent it. They go, no, we want a little more like a fantasy kind of an aspect to it. Can you change that guy into like a Cthulhu kind of monster thing?
Okay.
So I turned myself into Cthulhu coming through the door, and there's like these ghost skulls flying in and little demon things flying in, and the kids under the covers reading the magazine, but it was an infinity cover I had. So it was the kids reading the magazine with the picture of the kid reading the magazine with the picture of the kid reading. And I was so proud of the way that came out.
That's cool.
And they edited it and they put the cover of the previous issue of the magazine on the cover. I'm like, do you not know what an infinity cover is? It's issue 16. There you go.
There we go. Crown found it.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like they didn't know what they wanted or what artists do in a lot of ways.
Right. Yeah, so that monster coming through the door prom is me.
But could you make it look more realistic? No.
Right.
Ooh, you found it.
And you might even actually find one signed by me, because a lot of them were signed by me.
There you go. I'm going to have to seek this thing out now too. That seems pretty cool. That's a great story. I appreciate you telling that. We are really up against it on time. So I'm going to make a very brutal and quick transition to show off some community artwork.
Can I show 3 little things real quick?
Yes.
These are the comic books I did and sold at Portland Comic Con when I was in high school. So
nice.
This is the first one. It's a crazy, it's like an amalgamation of my buddy and all of our characters into one guy. And then this is the second one.
Okay, that one, I think you sent me that one before.
Yeah, and this is the third one.
That's cool.
Yeah, so there you go.
Nice. Very fun stuff. I know we no way mean to cut you short here. It's just
no, it's okay.
I want to try to keep it to our time. No, I appreciate that story. I think there's going to be lots more snippets to come in future iterations of we'll call it the life of Brian.
There you go.
But going from your artwork, which is awesome, and I've always been a big fan of your artwork ever since we first started talking, let's go to some other community artists that submitted their artwork to us, which is also awesome, including this amazing artist. This is Roscoe from Geek Out with Roscoe. Fantastic artist who did a lot of stuff for Comics Curing Cancer. So definitely go check out his stuff here. You got Wolverine, Pound and a Truly. This is a comic fan accurate Wolverine.
So good. Yeah. Roscoe's amazing. I love
He's
him.
awesome.
So.
Yeah, Wolverine. There you go.
Wolverine.
I like it. Very good job from Roscoe there. This one, I'm ashamed to say I don't understand the reference immediately, and I'm probably going to get mocked for that. I don't know. Is that a character from Noctera?
Probably.
I have to confess, I've never actually read Noctera because I had some gaps in the issue because the people I was getting it from at the time didn't fill it in. So I didn't read the whole thing. Now I should probably go read a digital copy, probably. But I don't know if I know there's like a black top character. I wonder if that's maybe that black character. Or something.
Yeah, no, I think there's monsters basically in Noctera that only exist in the darkness, right? And the world is plunged into kind of eternal darkness.
Okay, it is a monster from there. Okay, perfect. In the world of Noctera, everything outside the light turns into a shadow monster. Very, very cool. Yeah, I've definitely wanted to read it. It was just a goof from the comic shop I was getting him from, unfortunately. So I'm going to go back and do that. Classic Earthworm Jim. Tugs to that 90s nostalgia. That's the last piece from Roscoe, whose art always impresses me. Great job, Roscoe. These next three pieces, including this one, are from Eddie Rodriguez. Great rogue.
Amazing.
Yeah, he does an awesome job. He did this Spider-Man, which is really cool too.
Very cool.
And this other kind of, I guess
that must be Miles. It's got spray can, right?
Yeah, it's got to be Miles, but it looks like Spidey, like Peter Parker Spidey, but I imagine it's Miles. Very cool. And then we've got a few from Ben here. I thought this one was very, very, very topical. I have one I'm going to share next week that's even more Halloween. But this one, definitely evoked the season for me quite a bit. He does an awesome job. And then we'll see some of his diversity in his work, because some of these are just completely different styles here. Like this reminds me of almost like a New Yorker cartoon or something like that, with like incomplete edges and incomplete lines and stuff. And then
minimalist, like
this,
that last one, like the clouds and everything is very
minimal. 100% with like almost like the sun's kind of cutting off part of I can just kind of see it happening,
right. That's very cool.
But then he did this too, which is like
the opposite, right? Like massive detail.
I wonder if this is like those catacombs under Paris or something like that.
That one, that one almost reminds me of like the Han Solo and Carbonite.
A little bit, yeah, for sure. But Ben Taz is the artist on these last three that I showed, and then you have Eddie Rodriguez on these three, and then Geek Out with Roscoe on those. Definitely go check out all those artists. We are going to be doing a competition at the end of the year. We're going to pick our favorite pieces from every artist that's submitted that isn't a professional, and we're going to have a competition at the end of the year. The other thing I want to remind people about real fast is Comic Tropes is in the chat here. He is going to do that piece of a Joe and a Transformer. So if you're watching on the rewind, leave that in the comments down below, because I'm going to start that poll probably tomorrow on my channel with some options of who you can pick to have that be a nice combination of a Joe and a Transformer. I've got some great suggestions from the private chat for Heroes that we have. So I've got some great suggestions already, but I'd love to hear what everybody wants to do for that, because I think there's some really cool combinations that people have thought of, cooler than the ones I thought of. So I'm excited to see that.
Eddie is Eddie Rodriguez on Instagram, by the way.
Yes. Yeah.
And Roscoe is Geek Out with Roscoe on Instagram. So.
Yeah. And at Ben Taz for Ben. So all those are great artists. I'm also joined by a great artist over here as well. Definitely go check out his artwork. And I was very happy to. Not on the same level. I appreciate that, but thank you. Skid mark for G.I. Joe. But I do want to take a second, since we had such a great time talking to Bigby tonight. Go check him out on his YouTube channel. Go check him out on his Instagram. A lot of great stuff coming out from him. He does a lot of great shorts over on YouTube and a lot of great long form videos as well. Comic book hunting, comic book collecting, you name it. But if you enjoyed getting to know Bigby a little bit more, as I have enjoyed getting to know Bigby over the last few months, definitely go check out some more of his stuff. I would very much appreciate that. So
I've got a great video over there of our haul from Rose City.
Yeah,
you and me and Plegus and Mike
Lunch Money
Comics and Trav, Dan Sexman.
Yeah,
all of our horde from Rose City Comic Con. So
for sure. Yeah, definitely go check that out. We'll be back next week with more updates from Heroes for Heroes, another topic, possibly an interview with a different co-host of West Coast Comics. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But until then, everybody, I hope you're having a great week, and we will catch you in the next episode. Have a fantastic night, everybody.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.